much. So yeah, so we wanted to come together, as I say, to share some tips and information about the Office Management Awards. I know a lot of you have got questions about it, and given that this is the first, I think, really properly around the world Office Management dedicated awards program, it's definitely one to chat about and to ask any questions that you've got, because you may never have entered an awards program before because they haven't been available to you. So we're delighted to have you here this morning, and like I say, thank you so much to Lindsay and Lauren for lending us your time as well. So I've put a couple of slides together just to prompt more me than Lauren and Lindsay, because I need it. My memory is not what it was when before I had my son. So I thought this would be helpful to share some slides on why recognition is important first and foremost, and what my views on it are, and then I'm going to go to Lauren and Lindsay to hear what theirs are, and any stories that you've got to share, and including you guys in the chat if you've got any stories to share about the positives or the negatives, if you want to, in regards to recognition and achievement and acknowledgement and celebration, then please do. But for me, recognition is important for a few reasons, particularly being acknowledged and having acknowledgement. And that doesn't just mean in your role or in what you're doing day to day. That can be in anything in your life. To have acknowledgement is kind of like a human requirement. It's built within our DNA to want to be acknowledged, and it becomes more important to me and to all of us, where if you're passionate about your job, particularly something as varied and as diverse, and Lindsay and I have spoken about this a lot in the past as well, as office management, when you're dealing with so many different things, you want to have that acknowledgement and be acknowledged for what you're doing, the really important stuff to the really demenial stuff that people wouldn't even necessarily know you're doing. So yeah, I think acknowledgement's a really important one. I don't know if you guys have got anything to add on that one. And then validity, so being validated, feeling validated in what you're doing, and again, particularly where your job is concerned, it kind of sits quite closely with acknowledgement, which I've put the two together. But yeah, if you feel like you're not recognized, like you're not valid in your role and you're not valid in what you're doing, then there is a sense of disconnect, I suppose, and it's something that can then make you feel like you're completely detached from the company or from the role, and that's where things like a loss of morale, a loss of sense of accomplishment and commitment come into play, and you start to lose the motivation to do it. Reward, can come in many different shapes and sizes, and it doesn't necessarily mean something physical being given to you. It can quite literally be words and praise and that kind of thing. And I was just saying to Lauren and Lindsay, and I'm going to share the story, that this week we decided to start potty training my 17-month-old son. It's quite young to do it, but he has been quite vocal about when he wheeze and poops. I hope no one's eating. And this morning, for the first time, I put him on the potty and he peed. And for anybody that has children, you'll probably know that it's extremely exciting. And I was screaming like a nutter, and I filmed him for his dad and my family going, he peed on the potty. But for me, that is a whole part of the process, no matter what process it is, to acknowledge, to recognize and reward. And I rewarded him with a hug and a high five. And I think it doesn't matter what you do, sharing that achievement, sharing that acknowledgement and that reward makes you motivated to do it again. And that's why we do things like say well done to children or family members or colleagues at work when they do good things. Achievement, that sense of achievement, for me, being quite ambitious in my career, and I know probably for Lindsay and Lauren as well, when you get that sense of achievement, even if no one else is giving it to you, so this isn't more about self-recognition as well, because it doesn't always have to come from an outside source, it can come from within. That sense of achievement is so important, and being able to take a moment to take stock of that and to have that in your bag. So when you complete a project like an office move, who's done an office move here in their time? Yeah. Yeah, a few of you have. So yeah, when you do something like a big project like that, that's thrown on top of you, on top of your day job, and you have to find, you know, time in where there was no time to spare anyway, being able to go, do you know what, I kicked ass and I did that project, I ran it, I communicated, I got it done on time, I got it done on budget. Sure, I screwed up, I made some mistakes here and there, because we're all human, but you did it. And I think that sense of self-achievement is really important as well. And lastly, from me, or is there another point there? There's one more point. Celebration comes hand in hand with the others, and motivation. I've already talked about that being a factor. So, Lindsay and Lauren, what are your thoughts and points on why recognition is important in office management, in admin, and in life?
So you okay if I go, Laura?
Yes, please.
Okay, so what I would say on this, I love those slides, Hannah, and it's a bit like answer to the question is A, B, or C, all of the above, and it's absolutely all of the above there. And I think what we're building in when you gain recognition, when you have that recognition, is your self-esteem, which you touched on, the fact that when you have that recognition, when you have all of these things here, you're more likely to repeat whatever it is that you've done to gain that recognition. And that affirmation is so important. And actually, it's important to remember there is research that's been done that backs this up. That employees that are recognised in their organisations, when they have that reward, where they have that validation, where they have that celebration, all these things that you've written here, actually that means that they do become more motivated. And they do build their self-esteem, and actually they become more loyal and committed to their organizations, which I think, taking it from a different perspective, is important for an organization to recognize as well, that they're going to have loyal, they're going to have committed employees if they are recognized for providing this really great service and doing all of these really great things. So Lauren, over to you.
I think that's really interesting, because one of the things when I was preparing for this and thinking about, okay, what's important for recognition, the first thing I wrote down was started a good company. Was started a place that recognizes people. That's the easiest way to get there. But and we're also hinting quite a bit on self-recognition. So we're essentially conditioned to need recognition, or what's the point? Like we need indicators that show us we're doing the right thing, that we're working towards the right thing. By our parents, when we use the loo for the first time, and the excitement of that, when you're chastised for doing something you're not supposed to do. We're constantly looking for these outside indicators that we're working towards the right thing. It's just, we are programmed that way. So one of the things, it's really interesting, because my mom's a school counselor, and she follows this man named something Adler, I can't remember. She's part of the Adlerian Society, and he really pushed, instead of telling your child, well done, I'm so proud of you, to say, aren't you proud of yourself? So I think one is understanding from within and having that backbone, because we're so often looking for praise, and either you had a ton of it growing up and then as an adult you get none of it, or you had none of it growing up or not that much and you're craving it. No matter what, we end up craving it like crazy. So one, it's recognizing when you've done something well, it's celebrating the small things and being proud of yourself. And then working for someone that is going to recognize you. And if you don't work for someone that recognizes you, or even if you do, there are ways to build that. And I have things to add on here, but I'll let the conversation flow and not dominate too much. But then there are things you can do to sort of reprogram yourself, reprogram those around you to give recognition. But it is really important. It's something that we all want. I mean, my husband, I always say he's fishing. He's constantly fishing for compliments in certain ways, where I realize that I'm intrinsically motivated, not money motivated. I want someone to just give me, I want to just see them smile and know I affected their life, and just a genuine thank you is enough. That's all I need. But it means so much to us, doesn't it?
Yeah. I know growing up, I was the kid that took my work home that I was really proud of. I was saying it on my Insta live yesterday with Zoe, and I would bring it home and I would be like, Mummy, Daddy, look what I've done, because I just craved it so much. And I think I got it, you know, I think I just wanted more. And that's what motivated me. I was quite a nerd at school, and I just loved science and like dissecting animals and all this kind of, not animals, sorry, that sounds awful, like bugs and things and all that kind of stuff. Dead bugs, I must say. Anyway, I'm a vegetarian, I'm just going to say. Yeah, so, but yeah, I think that
we crave
order.
it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's we've been taught to crave it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I've had to get better through my adulthood at being able to get that satisfaction and that reward and that recognition myself, and take those moments where, you know, you say, actually, yeah, do you know what, I'm doing a good job. And
you have to, when we all work for ourselves, don't you?
Oh God,
we don't
yeah.
have someone to tell us that anymore, do we?
No. And the feedback that we get from our clients and members, for Lauren and I who have members, and this kind of that really validates that we're doing a good job. But of course, it's different when, you know, it's employee to employer and things. So okay. So
I love the fact that we're talking as well about the whole feedback to self moments, which we're saying is really, really important. But I just want to kind of put a caveat on that when we are having those internal dialogues and those conversations with ourselves, that we're actually identifying maybe if stuff doesn't go right and it doesn't quite go to plan, that we're not beating ourselves up, for want of a better word, because that it's very easy, I think, for many of us to have those internal dialogues, to have that little conversation with ourselves about the fact that it hasn't gone to plan, it hasn't been brilliant or as amazing as we maybe imagined or envisaged, and actually being able to be quite realistic about, okay, maybe it didn't go to plan, but actually this is what we've achieved, and always having that learning mindset that we can move on from this, and actually if we were to do this again, whatever this task is, what would we do differently, and actually using that as there is no failure, only feedback. Yes. Great thing. Okay, using that to move on to your next time that you put that into practice. That was a terrible sentence. It's a Friday thing. I obviously should have either had more coffee or less coffee, ladies.
But don't beat yourself up. It was a great sentence.
So I've just posted it in the chat, because I think that's something that there is no failure, only feedback. I think that's really important. Yeah. You know, and where rewards programs are concerned as well, if you don't make the cut, if you don't win you know, it's all about taking part, and it's all about that learning process in terms of going through the motions, and that will help you to gain the self-recognition by going through something like that and having to write your achievements and your successes and make you stronger every time. For things like appraisals, it's a good process if your company goes through those, and things like looking for a job, it will help with that. It's all part of that process, do you think?
Oh, yeah,
100%. All part of your personal and professional development. Absolutely.
Yeah. I put myself up for an award for the first time this year, and I was speaking to someone who was doing some marketing for me earlier in the year, and she and I spoke about them, and she said, you should totally put yourself up. Like, A, what have you got to lose? B, you know, this is something that you're never going to get anybody else necessarily doing for you, because you don't have an employer anymore. So why not? And see, at the end of the day, you can go to a fancy piss up do and have a good time. And I was like, okay, cool, I'm in it for option C. So
it's A, B, or C, all of the above.
All of the above.
Yeah.
And it's been pushed back to like March next year because of COVID, but anyway. Okay, so I'll hop to the next slide. So how can you get recognition? So I'll do the same thing again. I'll share my kind of tips on this, and then I'd love to hear what you and Lauren think, Lindsay, as well. So for me, particularly office management role, Gabriella's just said, my manager said that appraisals are a box ticking job. What a nice way to embrace the process. Definitely, that made me feel encouraged. Unfortunately, that is definitely the case in some companies. They do see it. I know for one of the ones that I've worked for in the past, it was a big box ticking exercise, and it doesn't wrap their arms around you to say, this is a process that actually isn't just attached to salary reviews and bonuses and things like that. It's actually about you and your development and us and our mission statements. And I think that's what they should come back to. That real root is your track, your ambitions, your goals. Oh no, someone else has just said they had a manager who said I should just copy hers. Oh, the stories. Keep sharing with us, guys, in the chat, guys and girls,
so
because we'd love to hear. But Lindsay, Lauren, what do you think of this?
This is, it's frightening because for most companies, let's not tell a lie, it is a box ticking exercise, but you have the control. You are in control of you to change that narrative for yourself. I don't care if somebody else says it's a box ticking exercise. I don't care if they say copy yours. That's not the point of the appraisal for you. The point of the review is to articulate your value to the company, is to take the mission, to take the yearly goals, the annual goals, the quarterly goals of the company, of your manager, of yourself, and be able to say the reason why I do inbox management is because I provide you clarity in your day, a friction-free day, so that you can make decisions and have 90 minutes a day to have the mental capacity to make the decisions that need to be made for the company to help the growth acceleration of the company, to help us meet our goals for this quarter, for whatever. And no one's doing that. Not enough people are doing that. No one is doing that, but that is something that most people are missing. And especially assistants, they struggle and struggle. I haven't read it yet. I'm afraid. I'm watching Hannah's face. I'm afraid to look over. But they're missing the trick of that. This is where you have to prove your value. It sucks that you have to prove it because you already have value. That's the first thing. But two, that you have to show them because they don't quite understand. And you should do it from the interview process. Ask that in an interview question is, what value does this role, how does the administrative tasks that I am doing, because we know we do more than just that, but get them to at least buy into that. Is how does this lead into your goals as a company? And you write it down because you're going to take that back into the interview and be like, you said this, not just have to come up with it yourself. And Hannah and I've been discussing coming up with a skills survey.
It's a good time to talk about it. For
office managers. So Jillian Huffnagel is brilliant, and she's trained in, if you don't know who she is, you should go find her website. She's a great coach for assistants and their executives. And she has a skills survey. It's open plan. You can Google it, Jillian Huffnagel with one F, and skills survey. And she has it's for EAs. And I said to Hannah, we should do this for office managers. I was an office manager. I won a national award for being an office manager. It was one of the best things that ever happened to me. I applied myself. And I'm just throwing that out there. But what I didn't have was this skills survey of the top 5 to 10 things that most office managers are responsible for. And take that to your boss, whoever is in charge, and say, are we on the same page? Are these the things that are expected of me? And how am I performing in them right now? On a scale of 1 to 5 or whatever, and then say, okay, well, what does it take to get a 5? So when you come in there, you know how to get recognition. You know, they're giving you the roadmap to your success there, and you're both on the same page. And you can do that by, in your manager catch-ups, revisiting that skills survey and saying like what you're doing all along, and you keep that conversation going. Sorry, I know I just said a whole bunch.
No. It's a good tool to have in the bag. And
I think
there's so many stages from the moment you first make and build a relationship with that company, with the managers, with the key stakeholders, that you can start to build that picture of what they need from you and what's expected versus what you can bring and what you are bringing. And like Lauren says, you have value from the minute you walk in that door, no matter what they tell you. And I'm saying this because of one of the comments we've just had, which is that someone was told they were the least important person in the room and that we have a glass ceiling with nowhere to go.
You're at the wrong company.
Yeah. Lindsay, keen to hear your thoughts on this appraisal process. And
I think the actually, can I go back to the skill set thing? I think it's a brilliant idea, Lauren and Hannah, to pull that together. I think it would be useful as well from my perspective, maybe breaking it down between sort of your roles and responsibilities, and then the skills and the attributes that you're going to need to actually exceed in those, to actually do those, and maybe build that up as a complete document. And it would be great discussion with all of your members as well. I mean, amazing. I think for the appraisals, it's actually quite sad, and my face gives away a lot as I'm looking at it because I'm frowning at some of the comments on the chat box here. it is sad to read some of those comments from organisations that obviously aren't valuing their employees, aren't valuing the administrative, the office manager role there, and to actually be vocal and share things to you that really are going to not motivate but completely demotivate you. It's really sad. And I think Lauren's absolutely right that as an individual, the onus needs to be on you to step up to being proactive, to making those changes, to actually taking hold of that appraisal and actually making it your own and actually formulating it so it does mean something. And that can be hard if you're in an organization that doesn't have that mindset to start with. So the onus is absolutely on you to make those changes. So yeah.
And the same is said for when these awful things are occurring in these companies where people are being so derogatory, so patronizing, and so downright rude to their staff as well. Like some of the comments we're seeing on the chat about people saying you literally know nothing, the glass ceiling, you're the least important person in the room. I'm going to swear, it's all utter bullshit. Okay, you are valuable. I put it on something. I put it on a video, I think yesterday I did on LinkedIn, because I hadn't been on LinkedIn for a while. You are valuable. Office managers are awesome. You are superheroes.
You have value
you
now.
wear an invisible cape. You have value now. You will always have value, no matter what job you are doing. And for anybody to make you feel any less than that, I can't even say the swear word. They're an a-hole.
Can we kind of backtrack as well? If you're applying for positions, I think that this kind of brings up the fact that we need to find out lots of things about an organisation before we actually join them as well.
Yes.
And I always say that interview process is two-way, because in a way you're interviewing the potential new employer to make sure that you are a fit. And this is important, this recognition stuff, this reward schemes, or the fact that they value you in your roles, and actually asking those questions and being quite direct with those questions as well, to find out what the culture is in that organization, what the ethos is there, so that you know that you are going to get this stuff that we've said is so important. It is so important. If an employer wants a loyal, committed, motivated employee, if they want to get the very best from you, then they need to be offering these things. It needs to be part and parcel of the organization's culture. Find that out at interview. And unfortunately, if you're already in an organization that doesn't value these things, yes, you can take the ownership, and the onus is on you to try and change that. But sometimes it's hard. The only solution is to leave. It sounds really harsh, but if it doesn't fit with you and you're not getting that recognition that you deserve, at the end of the day, go and have that interview with a future employer, potential future employer, where you know that you're going to get this stuff that's so important.
And what would you say is a good question to position to them? So I've done loads of interviews in my time and interviewed people, and I have had somebody ask me once, what is your rewards program like, your appraisal program like? But only one person, and I have probably interviewed in excess of 200 people for secretarial roles, office manager roles in my career, and most ask what training is available to me, which I think is still a very valuable question. But Lindsay, how would you position that question, or some examples?
I think actually opening up further than training. Training's amazing. Of course, I'm going to say that. We're running a training company.
Yes.
Coaching, mentoring, all of that stuff is brilliant, everybody. However, I think it's more than that. I think it's maybe asking the question, what support am I going to receive from you as an employer? What is going to make me feel absolutely valued in my role? Because that's really going to get your future employer to respond to that in a way that's going to give you much more information than being really direct with, okay, what training am I going to get? How much budget am I going to get? It's more than that. It's about the support that you're going to get here. And I think from the response that you get, you're really going to be able to gauge how they value each and every employee and how they will value you as an office manager.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go through some other comments. So Lauren's asking, but I think, Lauren, I've just messaged you because it's only going to me and Lindsay at the moment, but Lauren and I are keen to know what skills you would add to this skills survey, what areas of your role, so health and safety, culture, HR, accounts, etc. So yeah, so let us know in the chat anything else that you think should be added, and we'll come to you afterwards as well to find out. I mean, there's some shocking stories in here. Another one about having a star system, and the manager told her that she wasn't able to give her 5 stars because it was at the end of her probation review. The things people come up with.
It's very upsetting, but I think if we tell you anything here, it's that you are in control of you, and that it's the decisions that you make that put you there. It's the way you talk about your role. It's the way you talk about yourself. It's the roles that you accept. Now, there are outside forces. Sometimes we're hard up for cash. Sometimes we have to take the best thing to pay the mortgage. That I get. But you can always be constantly trying to either change the narrative that's being put upon you, which I find that a lot of admins contribute to by thinking of themselves as subservient, thinking of their career as lesser. And so I was asking Megan, or who the person that mentioned that comment about being told I think they were lowest on the I forget what her comment was, but what do you say to that? Do you contribute to the narrative that you are more? Can you ask in an interview, where do you see this position falling in the hierarchy of the business? How valued is this position? You set them up, you get them to have the buy-in I think it's really coming back to so much like what you talk about in the interview. And I just want, if you leave with anything today, it's have the permission to talk about the value of your role and figure out how to articulate that, figure out the words to do that. Everyone here on this panel can help you with that, but being able to use words like achievement, mentored, accomplished, use those in your CV, use those when you walk in the door,
And
so that
proud.
you're setting
You
the
can
tone.
say you're proud.
Exactly.
Like,
So
you
are
can walk
setting
into a
the tone.
manager meeting and say, and I've done it before, I can say, I'm so proud. I think I said it a couple of times about some hires I'd made in my team, because I pushed really hard to get a bigger team under me, because the company was growing. We were like 200 when we started, we were 350 by the time I was leaving. And I said, you know, I want 2 extra staff because this just isn't working, and you want me to do more, and I need people to fill my shoes as I'm doing more. So I said to him, I'm so proud of the hires I've made lately and this kind of thing. So, you know, that is a really powerful word to use. You don't just have to be proud of yourself. You can tell other people that you're also proud of you, and you're proud of them as well, which is one of my other things, one of my other tips here. So manager catch-ups, I think we've covered that. Share your successes with your manager in, you know, like Lauren said, articulate it really well. And I always say to people to prep these meetings with your managers. Don't go in blind, go in with your notes written down, you know, and tell them about some of the things you have accomplished. Even if you think it's minor and minute, just a quick sentence on it. By the way, I finished this. Or by the way, I saved us £2,000 a year on this because we were buying too many toilet rolls or whatever, which happened once in my business. We were buying too many toilet rolls. Anyway,
we're back to toilet talk again.
I know,
Hannah.
sorry, it's Friday.
When you're an office manager, to be honest, a lot of it has to do with the loos. People are breaking them all the time.
Oh my God,
There's so much.
We had one. I'm just gonna tell some stories today. We had one where so in the male toilets, they used to break the seats all the time, because I think there was some people who were from certain religions. They stood on the toilets, and we could not stop these toilet seats from breaking. We used to go through them every month, and we ended up buying the most expensive, most rigid toilet seats for £150.
Titanium.
Well, we should have just switched. They were plastic. Oh my God, the amount of money we spent on things like that. There we go.
Same thing happened to us at a London company that I worked at. They kept breaking the toilets, and they kept pushing the button through the wall.
Oh my God.
Pushing it through the wall and breaking toilet seats. Anyway, digressing.
Other people are feeling the love on toilets.
Love of an office manager, life of an office manager.
Yeah. Toilet talk.
Oh my God.
It's especially fun after a Christmas party as well. Okay. Be proud. I've talked about this already. If you're good, let people know, and not just your boss, other people, your co-workers, your colleagues, the people that you manage, because you're then demonstrating to them how to be a good leader and how to self-motivate and how to share their successes as well. So that makes you a really strong manager.
Can I just say on this, Hannah, as well, we're saying about being proud, and I think generally sometimes people don't want to shout from the rooftops that they're really good at something, because you might feel that you're being really brash, that you're kind of boasting or being big-headed. And actually, this isn't about that. This is about being, like you say, proud of the fact that, you know what, I'm really good at this. And being able to say that for some people can be a bit of a challenge. You know what, I'm good at this. I'm good at what I do. In fact, I'm bloody brilliant at what I do. Is how we need to vocalize it. This is not about being big-headed and boasting. It's just taking ownership of the fact that you're good at what you do.
That's a very
I know
good
some
point.
people struggle with that, and it does sometimes take practice to be able to say, I'm really good at this, or I really excel at this, or I've achieved this, or I'm, like you said, I'm proud about the fact that I've done this, and look, here are the results, here's the evidence.
I find British culture,
practicing that is so important.
Yeah, coming over here, I find, my husband's one of those people that he's very British in that he doesn't want to boast, and he realized for a very long time he was, I think I was always giving him pep talks before interviews and things like that, and now that he's older, he realizes, he gets it, but before he felt like it was he was conditioned to feel it was very boastful, and was
your head won't fit through a door type.
Yeah, the wrong type of attention to be seeking. And it is about self-regard. It is about that core self-belief as opposed to being boastful. And that's one of the reasons why in the officials we do weekly wins, is because we want to give people a safe space to talk about whatever their weekly win was. It could have been that they made a great banana bread cake. It could be that they nailed their an interview. It could be that they've, anything from personal to professional. It could be anything, but then all we do is encourage them. And now we use like silly gifts. That's how we're like, and it's hysterical. And it's our most popular day of the week, because sometimes you need that safe space to practice talking about yourself.
Yeah. Okay, so putting yourself out there. So we've covered this, I think, a bit already anyway, but this is where it is your time. There is no better time, even if it is about how good your banana bread is, to put your hands up and say that you did it. And there are certain ways, but I think anybody that puts you down for saying that you're proud of something, they're not the right person to surround yourself with if you have a choice on that, or they're probably just somewhat envious or jealous of the fact that they don't know how to articulate that. There is a way of doing it. Instead of going around going, you know, I'm shit hot at my job, look at me, that's probably not the best way to do it. Whereas to say to somebody like my manager or a colleague and say, you know what, I'm really proud of that project, actually, particularly if they start the conversation and say, you did a good job there, you can say, yeah, thank you, like I'm really proud. And having those kind of conversations with someone else leading the way will enable you to be better at vocalizing that and sharing your successes. And then recognizing others. So I touched on this again a moment ago about, encouraging and motivating the rest of your team, particularly if you manage people or if you have peers around you who, in terms of hierarchy in your company, are at the same level as you, is to pay it forward, as I think a lot of people say these days, is to recognize other people's achievements, because what goes around truly does come around in a positive sense, I believe, as well as sometimes in a karma type negative sense. But if you can share that positivity by recognizing someone else and saying, actually, that was a really good job, you should pat yourself on the back, mate, that was fantastic, then the chances are you'll feel better for it and you'll be proud of yourself for sharing that, but also you'll start to get a lot of positive feedback and recognition. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, there's lots of research that's been done on this kind of what I would call attitude of gratitude, where the simple act of saying thank you to somebody and going out of your way of thanking them for something actually has huge benefits in terms of that positive energy in the work environment. So that attitude of gratitude, I just love that phrase. But it also taps into something called the law of reciprocity, which I said correctly, and I really struggle saying that word sometimes. Which means that if you appreciate one person, they're likely to reciprocate you as well. So it's that reciprocity there, and it's just that positive energy that you can create the whole culture in an organization. So just go out of your way and say thank you. Particularly, I think, for things that we maybe take for granted. If there's one thing we've learned from 2020, it's never to take anything for granted, because when something's taken away from us, of course we're going to miss it, because it becomes part and parcel of kind of our routine. And once it is taken away, we suddenly realize, you know, oh my gosh, I'm really missing X. I'm really missing hugs at the moment, everybody, from people, and I'm sure everyone else is. And actually going out of your way and recognizing maybe those more mundane day-to-day things that someone may be doing, and saying, you know what, brilliant, I recognize that you're doing this, thank you very, very much. That can make such a difference.
I'll just jump in, Lauren, before you add yours.
Please.
It's so true, because, and again, bring it back to office management as an example. Whenever we did an office move, and I've done hundreds in my career, I would always write to every single person involved, not on BCC either, with everybody shown, and copy in the CEO, my line manager if they weren't the CEO, you know, whoever else was important, the line manager that wanted the move to happen because it was their department, whatever. Copy the world in to say, I'm thanking all these people, and if I hadn't already had thanks from them at that point, I would probably get it back in return. So I wasn't doing it to get the thanks back, I was doing it to genuinely recognize the people that had helped me, because yes, my name's on the project, but there was an entire team of people behind me that helped it and made it happen. So it's really important to share that.
There's two things here that I'm hearing that I wanted to speak on. Is one is that reciprocity is, I think what it does is it creates these real relationships and human connections, and that you suddenly, when you could think your boss doesn't know jack shit about what you do, and then all of a sudden they say a thank you out of the blue, they send you a text that says, I know that you put this together, and suddenly you see them not as your boss but as a human being. And suddenly you realize that they see you as a human being, that you, listen, I know you've been really busy, you have a new baby, you whatever, you're going through a house move, or just in general, you got your own damn life. And I just wanted to say thank you for the hard work. It suddenly builds this deeper, etched in relationship. And the other thing I wanted to say on top of that was, when you speak of yourself, when you point out and are able to articulate your value and connect it to the company, because that's the best way to do it. If you can do it that way and be able to point out how you hit them it's always the pocket watch and the pocketbook. How did you save them time? How did you save them money? Make them money, give them time, either way. If you can do that. But that if you do it in front of junior members of staff, if you do what Hannah did, what that you're learning is that, or what people around you are learning, you're teaching them how to praise others. You're teaching them that they can have their own voice. And so sometimes for us admins, we have a hard time just doing it for ourselves. But like, I play a little mental trick on myself. When I would go and do like a public speaking thing, or I have to speak in a meeting, I'll pretend the person next to me is terrified. And so I suddenly have this like false confidence that I have to do it for them. The person next to me is blindly not knowing I have this mental game going on in my head. But I think of this kind of recognition in the same way, that if you have staff members around you that you think, because we often think other people should do something we won't do ourselves. Like, we will encourage somebody else to do something, but won't take our own advice. So sometimes it helps to play these mind games, these mental games with ourselves, to say, and it's not even a mental game, it is the truth. You are giving other people around you permission to be proud of themselves, to speak of themselves, and you're teaching them how to praise and recognize others. And I think no one is more, is better to do that and understands the importance of that recognition than an admin, and knows what it feels like to not get it or to get it poorly. And so we can do it right and teach others how to do it.
Yeah, and this is why things like the Office Management Awards are so important to me, because and hopefully to everybody else that's considering entering, to you guys as judges, because there are so many platforms for people in different professions to put themselves on, to get awards, to get this formal piece of recognition, if you will. You know, there's different levels of recognition. There's informal, there's formal, you know, there's physical, there's verbal, there's all sorts of things. And for me, it was really important to offer a stage for office managers to get on and to say, I am good at this. I add value. This is where I've added value. This is what I'm good at. These are my successes. And it's
contributing to a bigger narrative, which is that office managers are badasses,
They
and that
are.
they keep, especially if you're an office manager, usually it's some type of startup typically, or some kind of startup-y feel where there might not be EAs or admins, or I'm sorry, other assistants or something, that you kind of are doing everything, or you're doing a hybrid role, which I love that Hannah put a hybrid category in here. But as someone who has won an award while I was an office manager, and I saw what people wrote about me. I nominated myself, and then they came to my company, or I was able to then tell my company, I've been nominated. I nominated myself. I think it let me nominate myself. And then I was able to, in this particular award, I was able to share that if anyone wanted to like beef up my nomination, to add stories to it. And I didn't have the most stories of anyone there, but I was one of the 5 people that won. And I got to read what people wrote about me, and it changed the whole trajectory of my career. It really, even though I knew and loved my job, I knew I was good at it. I didn't realize the ways in which I was helping others. And I will always have that, as Lindsay put, the smile file, the brag sheet, the whatever you want to call it, that I will always have those comments and know when I'm having down days that I know what I'm doing. It's all an experiment. Going back to what Lindsay was saying before, is like failure. There's no failure, only feedback. To me, it's failure is fuel, and there's really no failure. It's all an experiment. You're just, we're constantly iterating. And it really did. It's the whole reason I had just started the officials as a community. And that's actually one of the big reasons why I'd won it. And because I was trying to help our profession. But I can tell you right now, you should definitely, if you're an office manager and you're watching this and you're not one of the entries, you are doing yourself a massive disservice. One, because why not you? It's all an experiment. Find out if you win, if you don't, what were they looking for? Find out what happened with the winners. If you do win, amazing, fantastic. It could do what it did for me, which was change the whole trajectory of my career. And this became a whole business and mentorship program. And also, not as many people apply as you think they do. Forget about just this, but like if anyone's trying to sell or like win a boat, I've won so many things just by applying, because you think people apply, you think there's people better, you think there's people more deserving. And I want you to ask is, why not you? Because there's no reason why it shouldn't be you. Everyone in here has value right now. Sorry, just to throw that out there.
And just to wrap up on this slide, do you have any other points to add or tips on how anyone here can get recognition?
You want to go, Lindsay?
I kind of want to put in here that we keep mentioning kind of successes and identifying, what you're really good at, and being proud of those facts. I think a really great exercise to do, if you haven't already done one, everybody, is to do a personal SWOT exercise, which is not a one-off exercise. This is a regular thing that you can check in with yourself. It's going to gain a snapshot of you at any moment in time. It identifies obviously your strengths so that you can take ownership of that and say, do you know what, I'm really good at this. I'm bloody good at this. But also it can identify where maybe your learning gaps are, or your skill sets are that you need to develop more, which can really help again with your appraisals, with your goal setting for each 6 months or year. And also those opportunities and those threats as well can just be so useful to gain that snapshot. So go do a personal SWOT. I can give you the link through to that. It's such a worthwhile exercise.
Yeah, I was going to say, for anyone that's not heard the acronym, are you able to explain maybe a bit more? Or
sorry. So yeah, I jumped ahead and kind of guessed everyone would know it. So a SWOT analysis is traditionally done on like a business or a sector level. So it's an acronym for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, SWOT. And if you do a personal SWOT, what you're gaining is a snapshot of yourself. You're identifying, as I said, all your strengths, maybe your weaknesses, which are absolutely opportunities for you to grow personally and professionally. It identifies all the opportunities that are open to you. And it identifies those threats, those barriers, and those things that are maybe getting in the way of us being the very best that we can be. So just such a worthwhile exercise.
Yeah, definitely. Lauren, anything to add on how anyone can get recognition?
Just going back to what Hannah said, is that sometimes recognition is a hard word to swallow. The word visibility was a really good word that you used, and to say that if they don't understand my value, they will never value my position. They will never I will never get a raise. I will never get, and sometimes it's not even about the raise. Sometimes it's not about that. It's about additional benefits at the company, or just your place in the company, and know what you're all working towards is the same. And if you feel underappreciated, it's very hard to be motivated in that way. So think about it as visibility that the company needs to see. It is an exercise you're doing for the benefit of them.
Yeah.
If you cannot do it for yourself. And the other thing I wanted to say in here is I could see how many people we have in here right now. And I would love for you to put in the chat, I am applying, if you are applying today. And I think you should absolutely apply this weekend. I want everyone in here. I could see the number of people in here. I want everyone to put in the chat, I am applying. Why not me?
And some of you I know have already applied, so or raise your hand.
Or raise your hand. But I think it's really important. Give permission to everyone in here to apply, because you're going to apply.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. Let's all give ourselves permission. Why not me? I'm going to do it. It's a Friday. It's a fun project. I always do a fun afternoon project. I try not to take on any new work on a Friday. I do all my follow-up in the morning for the week to close off all my stuff. And in the afternoon, I do some kind of fun passion project. So everyone in here, this is your fun passion project this morning. Yeah. And even if you're like, oh, I got to think about this, forget about that. Do what you can when you're sitting down.
Just get started.
Just get it in. Yeah. And then it's our job as judges to pull that information out of you and go through that. And because I think I really want this to sink into every single person here.
Yeah. So on that note, there's a lovely sparkly trophy on the page, and we've got some fantastic prizes lined up for our winners. But what is great, I think, she says, being the person that created the Office Management Awards, tooting my own trumpet.
Thank you for doing this. Thank you, because you're
Pleasure.
Elevating the industry.
Yeah, I am proud. I am really proud. I'm going to take a moment. It's Friday. I'm going to give myself a pat on the back, because I thought about this at 2 a.m. one night whilst I was feeding my son, going, I'm not doing enough for this profession still. What else can I do? This was late last year, and it was my mission this year to launch these awards. So I'm proud that we've done it, and I'm so grateful for people like you guys for being part of it, for you and Lindsay and Lauren and the other judges being part of it. But I'm really proud, and I'm so pleased that you guys are here to take part. So there are 10 categories available. I'm not going to go through all of them, but as Lauren mentioned, there is a hybrid one. So I know a number of you are in PA, EA, office manager hat roles. But there are 10 available. So if you're thinking I'll never win, there's so many available, and you'll probably be able to find one that really suits you. There's Office Manager of the Year. There's Newcomer. So if you're fairly new, I think it's about 2 years is the maximum time limit in the office management role. There's a hybrid one, and then there's project-specific ones. So if you've completed a project this year, and you can enter more than one as well. So you've definitely got opportunity to become a finalist, opportunity to, thanks for sharing the link in there, Lauren, to win. And more than that, this is a huge learning opportunity as well. So there's 7 categories specifically for the office managers, and then there's 3 for our service providers. So I'd also love you to think about who in your roles helps you. So we don't just want to celebrate office managers, we want to celebrate those that help our profession. So the service providers, Lindsay and Lauren, for example, are service providers for our profession. So they can enter or be nominated as well. And we've had a number of service providers be nominated already. You can enter directly. You don't need somebody to nominate you. We added the nomination form purely because we want there to be an opportunity for managers, for colleagues, for, I've nominated a few people that I've worked with as in my clients, and I think it's important that they recognise how they've come along in the years that I've worked with them in training and things. So, you can nominate, you can enter, you can do both. The entry is free, and the deadline has been extended to the 15th of January, thanks very much to COVID. So are there any questions about the awards? Lauren's put the link there, the categories are listed in there with some of the criteria, but are there any questions at this stage? If so, pop them in the chat. Good go, Amy. Yeah.
Well, someone in here said that how hard it was for her to say, I am applying. And it is true. And I was just thinking, that's imposter syndrome at its worst. And it's really funny because the definition of imposter syndrome is not being able to internalize your own accomplishments. So by definition, you have accomplishments in imposter syndrome. And that the only way to get over imposter syndrome is sadly to push through it. It's kind of like this brick wall that's really just a hologram. And when you break through and you get through the other side of it, you realize you survived, that you did it. Maybe you won, maybe you were shortlisted, maybe that you just figured out, okay, next year I'm going to reapply and it's different. I realized the criteria and the things I want to work on and to better, maybe I didn't articulate myself well in the application, but there's no reason I shouldn't have won that when I see the description. Is just, you have to push through and keep getting positive responses on the other side of it. And it will make it easier and easier to be able to be proud of yourself, to let other people know that you're proud of yourself, to get the recognition that our roles as office managers deserve. So well done. I just want to say well done. That's really awesome.
So we've got a couple of questions. So yes, they are UK based awards only. We are hoping that in the future we'll be able to make them more global, because again, there really aren't any, only the one that Lauren's mentioned, which is the Office Ninjas, comes close to it. And the I suppose in the rules, when you go to each category, you'll see what the criteria is. There's just a brief paragraph with each. But if you had worked in the UK in the time that you could enter, in the sense that some are like 2 or 3 year rules behind when you must have done something or been in the role, then you could still apply. So if you've moved abroad, like I know one of the people that's entered, she's now overseas somewhere in Europe, but only recently had she gone. So she's entered for what was her UK role over here to share her successes prior to moving. Hopefully that makes sense. And then another one is, how are the awards judged? So this is a really good question. And so we'll receive all of the entries, and what we may do is, if for example we feel that you've entered for a particular category, but actually we think that your entry is better suited in a different category. Say for example you entered Office Manager of the Year and you talked about a project you did at length, we may move you into the project, because we may think actually this is what you're talking about, this is the one that you are shining in. So there may be a bit of that. It's quite rare that happens, but that's something that may be done. And then
it's wanting to get them recognition no matter what they did. That's
exactly
the base behind it.
Exactly, yeah. And then there's scorecards essentially. So each of the judges are working in pairs. So each pair has 2 awards assigned to them. So there's 10 judges in total working in pairs on 2 award categories each. And they'll be scoring each of the entry questions. So some of them aren't scoreable. So for example, I think it's like, how long have you been in your role? That's not a scoreable question, clearly, because it doesn't really matter. It's about how you present yourself across. So they're scoring and they're looking for particular things. Spelling and grammar is really important in this as well, to be able to put yourself forward and how clear and succinct you can be, and we'll come on to some of our top tips about how you can achieve some of this in a moment. But each one will get a score, and then the judges will combine their average scores and then look at the total for agreeing the finalists. And between them, the scores can be completely disregarded at that point. They can then, from those finalists and the higher scores, decide on who their winner is. And it's down to our judges whether they want to. We're encouraging them to, but it's down to our judges whether in pairs they want to then go out and interview. So Lindsay, I think you're really keen to meet your set of finalists in your categories.
Yeah, absolutely.
So and as I think is your paired judge. So so Lindsay's category will make a point of trying to meet with the finalists. So hopefully that's answered that question. And I'm conscious of time, so I want to get on to our top tip. And it's your time to shine. It really is your time to shine. So some top tips on entering these awards. Be authentically you. It's really important that we can see the true you coming through. And I'm going to go quite quick with these because I'm really keen for you to hear from Lauren and Lindsay. Yeah, be you. Be true to who you are, and let us see that in your entry. Give yourself plenty of time. So Lauren's saying enter this weekend. I say do it, but I say start the process. Get your entry started. with an aim to finishing it, maybe by the end of the weekend, maybe give yourself a bit longer in the next week or so, and get someone else to check it for you that you trust, to make sure that they're helping to represent you as best as
you can see our work differences where I'm like, rip it off like a plaster, do it. You're like, plan,
and I'm like,
draft.
slow and cautious, get it right. Because once it's submitted, you can't pull it back.
I'm a leaper. I leap.
Yeah, but I think I'm somewhere in between. So leap, do it.
Yeah.
Put your foot on that path, get the journey started, but draft it, review it, submit it in that order. Back it up with plenty of evidence. We encourage you to do that within the entry form. I think there's sort of 10, 12 questions in them, and I know some of you have already entered, so hopefully you didn't find it too laborious, and you found it quite a motivating process to go through. And carefully read the brief for each entry you're going for, to make sure that you're hitting the boxes that we're putting on there, because they're indicators of what we're looking for to then obviously score and narrow down our finalists and the finalists. So Lauren, let's go to you first, and we'll go to Lindsay on top tips, please, for entering.
The part about being authentically you, I think one thing that we really fail at in an interview, and because this is so weird, it so much sounds like an interview, so much sounds like a performance review, ticking the boxes, make sure you're articulating the value you bring for each of those requirements and having that skill survey, is really do use your own words, because that's when you're going to sound the best. If you're sitting there trying to think, I excel in, and using all that jargon that you think we want to hear, just make sure that you are connecting with why you really think, why not you, and really use your voice. That's what I'm looking for anyway when I read these. And I think it helps you be clearer in what you want to do. But I agree with everything Hannah has said, and I just think it's brilliant that you're doing this, Hannah.
And our tips as well, before I forget to say it, sorry Lindsay, are on the website as well. So if you go to the link Lauren sent, there is a top tips or judges tips section where Lindsay and Lauren have quoted and shared theirs as well. So you've got them to re-reference at a later date. But Lindsay, I'd love to hear from you. And Lindsay, sorry, you've done a blog for us as well, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we can give you the link through to the blog, which is on Hannah's website. So, and I really, I suppose, want to echo both yours, Hannah's, and Lauren's point about being authentically you, because I think that to me is incredibly important. We want you to come across, we want to know more about you, not because I'm nosy, although I am nosy, but I want to know more about you, because I think
you're really nosy because you're looking for that human connection. You're looking for that, we're looking for those connections.
Connect with us. I think this whole conversation at the moment around the robotization, the digitization of our roles, it is great. You know what, we're taking advantage of that technology that's there for us. But at the end of the day, there is always going to be that personal element, that the individuals that are there. And I want to know more about you as an individual. What makes the difference in your organization to you being the office manager, to you being that hybrid EA, PA office manager, and the things that you're doing? What is the difference there? What are you bringing to the table that means that it's authentically you, that means that it is that personal kind of touch there? That's so important here, so important. So yes, we want that evidence. Yes, as Hannah said, the prerequisite needs to be that this is professional business English that you're using, but not in kind of like you've swallowed a thesaurus. We want you to, as Lauren said, speak naturally, write naturally, so that we're really getting a feel for who you are. And hopefully your passion for the role as well, and the fact that you're proud. We keep using that word. You're proud of the things that you have achieved, and that your successes in your organisation.
Yeah. Here's a challenge to wrap up onto everybody that's on this, or anyone that watches it on YouTube later, because I know a few of you haven't been able to make it live, but you wanted the recording. Use the word proud in the next 24 hours about yourself. Or if you want to, say it to somebody else, but try and use the word proud in the next 24 hours. There's a Friday challenge for you. As my dog barks right on cue.
Tag the office management group. Like, let us see what you're proud. Put your weekly win on and say it was a challenge. What you're proud of. Yeah,
exactly. Right. Are there any questions from anybody else that or any other points that anyone wants to raise or discuss? Lauren and Lindsay, same to you as well. Any final thoughts?
No, just thank you for doing this. It as you said, sometimes you're in that in between of making sure you're doing it right and leaping. And I think with this 2 a.m. idea, Leaped?
I leapt.
Leapt, yeah.
I wasn't slept
See?
or sleeping. I didn't sleep. I was wide awake.
No slept.
No slept, but I leapt. Right,
Thanks
it's
for
12
having
o'clock.
us.
Thank you so much. I'm so proud. I really am. I've used mine. I've challenged, ticked off, and I'm proud of you two as well. Thank you for taking part. I'm proud of your business.
Thank you for
and your
inviting us,
successes.
and thank you for everyone being involved. I just think this is just amazing. So
I can't wait to see these entries.
Do it.
I'm remembering these names. I'm keeping this chat. I want to see these names.
Thank you very much. Nice to see you all. Nice to see you, ladies, and have a wonderful weekend. Think about your application, and we will see you very soon.
Can we do the crazy waving Zoom goodbye?
2 hands.
Bye. And now I've got to click end. Bye, everybody. You're
Bye,
welcome.
everyone.
Take care. And if there are any questions, just reach out to us directly. We can help. And I can't find the end button. I can't see
We'll just wave you off.
We'll just wave. Keep waving. How do I end it now? I think it's because I've got so many screens open here. I can stop the share. There we go. Now I see the end button. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.